Hey, everybody, it's Mike from The Mike Wagner Show, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking at a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs at below the competition way. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support at sonicwebstudios.com. Mention The Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, The Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen at Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on iTunes, Google Play, Apple, Anchor FM, and more. Over 35 podcast platforms. Take The Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device. Subscribe to The Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow The Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with a wonderful lady who is very adaptable into doing a podcast, and she's joining us here today talking about the Adaptable podcast, or the podcasts that are adaptable. And she's got a series out. She was previously a Read It For senior editor. She's also with Modern Bride, Glamour, Oprah Magazine, and a lot more. She's got the pulse of what's going on in the publishing world, and also had a couple of adaptations that turn potentially into movies, and she just does a lot of magic with it. Ladies and gentlemen, from her home studio right here somewhere in the beautiful United States, ladies and gentlemen, the very adaptable Abbe Wright. Abbe, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. Thanks for joining us today.
Hi, Mike. I'm so glad to be with you.
Oh, yes, and I'm so glad you're making this adaptable as well, too, in the Adaptable podcast. And you've been doing this for about a couple seasons now, and we'll talk about what you got going on. You previously were a Read It Forward senior editor. You also worked with Modern Bride, Glamour, and also Oprah Magazine as well, too, and many others. And before we get into all that, tell us you got your career started.
Well, I always knew I wanted to be an editor at a magazine. And so I was an English major in college and graduated and interned first at the Philadelphia Magazine. I'm from Philadelphia. And then I interned at Teen Vogue, and I actually parlayed that into my first job, which was the assistant to the editor-in-chief at Modern Bride, Elegant Bride, and Your Prom. So I like to joke, it's all of the big days in a gal's life. And I got to assist her and really see the magazine from top to bottom. And then I moved over to the Oprah Magazine, where I worked first in the fashion and style departments. And I really missed writing for the magazine. And I was fortunate enough to be able to transfer over to the reading room section of the magazine, where I got to write about amazing books that were coming out in the magazine every month and help people find a great book that sort of had the Oprah Magazine stamp of approval on it. And from there, I went to Glamour Magazine in 2014 and worked as the editor in charge of their top 10 college women competition.
Wow.
So it is a national competition that's been happening for about 60 years now, that highlights some of the most high achieving young women in college who are not only going to class and getting straight A's, but are curing cancer, starting nonprofits, being entrepreneurs. So I helped shine a national spotlight on them. And after that, I missed being in the book world. So I am now the senior editor at Read It Forward, which is a website that is owned by Penguin Random House, the nation's biggest publishing house. And I get to create content all about directing people to their next great read. So we do that through written content on site. We have YouTube videos. And of course, we have two podcasts. We have the Read It Forward podcast, where I get to interview authors all about their amazing books. And we also have the Adaptables podcast, which looks at great book-to-screen adaptations.
Amazing. And of course, I see you have a lot of books as well, too. And also, what was that one moment that influenced you into precisely writing and loving what you do? And what was that aha moment that says, hey, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life?
Well, I was the kid that used to read at summer camp after lights out in my sleeping bag. Um, and I have always had a book in my hand. Every summer vacation I think back to, I remember what I was reading when I was there. And so books have just always played a huge part of my life and how I understand the world around me and how I build empathy and how I learn about other experiences through the characters in books. And so I've always been a huge book lover, but I remember after transitioning from the fashion department at Oprah, I went to a party full of publishing people here in New York City. And I had never been one to really wear stilettos or really the highest fashions. And so I remember the first book party I went to, people are in glasses and loafers and they've got tote bags and they're all holding a book. And I look around and I'm like, oh, these are my people. Okay. These are my fellow nerds. And I just felt so accepted into the community of publishing in New York. And it really made the city feel like a small place to be, in a good way. And I've just loved getting to know different authors and read all sorts of books, months before they come out. So I really feel very fortunate. I say that I have a dream job, and I really do think that.
Hmm. It sounds like you're living your dream job as well, too. And who are some of your favorite authors and writers growing up?
Well, growing up, I loved, of course, Judy Blume. Who doesn't? She wrote so perfectly about what it is to be a girl. I also love Tuck Everlasting by Natalie Babbitt, which plays with the idea of, what if we are immortal? What if we could be immortal? I remember reading The Island of the Blue Dolphins in fifth grade
Oh,
with
wow.
Dr. Holt. And, those stories where someone is lost in the woods, or of course the Boxcar Children I was obsessed with, Nancy Drew, Harriet the Spy, sort of any plucky character that was off, being pretty independent and solving a crime or living on their own or surviving on an island. I was all about that. And I've grown up to be a very independent person, living alone on the island of Brooklyn. So, yeah, not so bad.
Wow. And what are some of your other favorite genres you love to read about?
I love historical fiction. To this day, I think it is so fun to be transported back to, a time that is different from our own. And so to learn something as well as be transported into a different character, I absolutely adore that. And then I also love nonfiction, especially true crime. So, of course, stemming from the OG Truman Capote, to Eric Larson, who wrote The Devil in the White City. Eric Larson is magnificent in that he makes nonfiction feel suspenseful and just like a fiction thriller where we know what's going to happen from history. But he sets the pulse and the tone of the book in such a way that you can't help but turn the pages, waiting to find out what happens. I also really, really love memoir of any kind. Memoir is a very special genre to me in that it feels like the author has laid their heart bare on the page. And I just feel such a sense of gratitude when I read a beautiful, moving memoir, because I know how hard that is to write. And I think that truth telling that an author does is so important.
That is amazing. And you talk about memoirs and everything else. What do you consider your favorite memoir?
Oh gosh, there are so many, but I have been talking about this book for so long. It is called Son of a Gun by Justin St. Germain. And his mom was an Army paratrooper who used to jump out of planes. But at the end of her life, she actually lost her life at the hands of her fifth husband. And
Fifth
so, yes, her fifth husband, and her son, Justin, goes back and speaks to all of the husbands who are still living and looks at gun culture in America and looks at how his mother could have transformed from a strong, badass paratrooper from Philadelphia jumping out of planes to a woman in an abusive relationship who eventually lost her life in a trailer. So that to me was so moving and so powerfully done. The fact that he could take his own grief and manifest it into something so powerful. And I also love The Rules Do Not Apply by Ariel Levy. She is a writer for The New Yorker and also transforms her own grief. She had lost a baby and lost a partner at the same time. She traveled halfway around the world for a story that she was writing for The New Yorker, and was dealing with both the physical miscarriage and loss of this baby while also her marriage was breaking up. And it's an absolutely stunning story. So to me, it's so powerful when authors can really transform their own experience into something that we can all learn and grow from.
That's amazing. We'll talk more about your favorite books as well, too. And first, you listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking for a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on the MikeWagnerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, and iHeartRadio. Also on Anchor FM, Radio Public, iTunes, Google Play, Apple, and over 35 podcast platforms. Take the Mike Wagner Show on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with Reader Forward Senior Editor Abbe Wright of the Adaptable podcast here on the Mike Wagner Show. Very adaptable indeed, and we'll talk about the podcast in just a minute as we continue our discussion of books as well too, and just interesting in how many books she's read and the type of genres, the history of it, and working with great people and authors. And of course, we're going to get to some of your favorite books in just a minute. But of course, you started reading at way back when. What was your first book that you read?
Oh, gosh. I have no idea, but I do remember some really formative books from my youth. One is, of course, Blueberries for Sal, which I remember reading with my grandmother. And then one called Mouse Paint, where a bunch of different mice get into a bunch of different paints and create a bunch of new colors, which, I love color. I love painting and art. So that was really fun. Of course, Caps for Sale. There are so many formative children's books that you think back on and really appreciate you igniting your love for reading. So, my parents read to me every night, and I think that really stuck with me.
It sounds like Dr. Seuss. A lot of it sticks with you over time.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I love me some Dr. Seuss, too, even to this day.
Yes, and I was going to think of something of Dr. Seuss, but I guess the Cat in the Hat got my tongue on that one. So yeah, that.
Yes,
but,
the Cat in the Hat, or Oh, the Places You'll Go is such a good one. Or The Lorax is a favorite of mine. I really am an environmentalist, so The Lorax is close to my heart.
I remember watching the movie version of it, and I look and it's like, oh my gosh, that was just something. I have to say that. So makes you learn, it makes you think, but yet it don't stink.
Those are the best books, really, right?
Yes, that's right. And of course, you had so many favorite books as well, too. And if you were to choose like a top 10, what would your top 10 favorite books of all time would be?
Oh, gosh.
Or you can do 5.
Definitely The Great Believers by Rebecca Mackay. Is such a moving book. It's set in Chicago during the AIDS crisis. I I absolutely could read and reread that over and over again. I also love The Nickel Boys by Colson Whitehead, which of course just won a Pulitzer Prize. So I'm not alone in that. I love, I'm looking at my shelf right now. Holly Whitaker's Quit Like a Woman is her story of getting sober and her sober journey. I am also sober. And to me, it was really interesting to read her account of why it was important for her to shed alcohol from her life. So I really appreciate that. And, she's just a wonderful, wonderful support. I also, let's see, to throw it back, I love Cannery Row by John Steinbeck. It's such a working man's tale, and yet these characters are so fully formed that every time I reread it, it just, makes my heart sing. And then I will say, for a dose of humor, I Feel Bad About My Neck by Nora Ephron. She is the most hilarious writer and just has such poignant things to say and observe about the life we lead. And I would read her grocery list, honestly. She's so funny.
That's amazing. I remember reading books as well, too. Back in the day, I remember George Orwell's Animal Farm as well, too. And, give us your thought on it.
Yes. I mean, I love Animal Farm. I think it's incredibly poignant right now. And it's a very slim read. So I actually just, it's in my to be reread pile because it's only about 120 pages long. So it's a really fun one, especially in these times where you might have a little extra time to read, and you could honestly get it done in a day.
Wow. Okay. You talk about slim reading. I thought you were talking about the speed reading. It's like, how fast can I read this book and understand it?
Well, some of the best ways to get through a lot of books quickly are actually to read audiobooks. That way you can put on an audiobook while you're cooking dinner or while you're gardening or going for a walk. And so you can really maximize the time you spend, quote unquote, reading if you're listening to an audiobook.
Uh-huh. And also, you got one of the best-selling novels you feature in your podcast. We'll talk about it in just a minute. But first, to listen to The Mike Wagner Show at themikewagnershow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at sonicwebstudios.com for all your needs. Looking for a professional website without breaking your budget? Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Wagner Show. Get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios. Take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Wagner Show can be heard on themikewagnershow.com. You can check our Facebook page at facebook.com/The Mike Wagner Show. You can download and listen on Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, Spotify, over 35 podcast platforms. Check the Mike Wagner Show with you on any mobile device right here, and subscribe to the Mike Wagner Show on the YouTube channel. Follow the Mike Wagner Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with Rita Forder, senior editor, Abbe Wright of the Adaptable podcast here on the Mike Wagner Show, just talking about some of her favorite books, how she got into books, and just generally about authors and everything else book-wise. And also one of the best-selling novels that she's got featured on the Adaptable podcast is Celeste Ng's Little Fires Everywhere. You can just tell us more about that and tied to the Adaptable podcasts.
So we are always looking for ways to get books into the hands of readers. And I know that I love TV just as much as I love books. And so many great TV shows have been actually adapted from books, like Big Little Lies, like Killing Eve. There are so many that actually come from the source material of a great book. And so we decided to start a new podcast called The Adaptables, which looks at great book to screen adaptations. And, we started with Celeste Ng's Little Fires Everywhere, which was just adapted for Hulu. It came out March 17th and was a very bingeable, dramatic show with an amazing cast, Reese Witherspoon and Kerry Washington in the two leading roles. And it was very fun to spend season one talking all about the differences between the show and the book, and what was different, what was the same, what we liked. So my co-host Emma Schaefer and I really did a deep dive with a guest on every single episode, all about, those fun differences and what we spotted. And then we also got to interview the author, Celeste Ng. And so she would pop in each episode with some thoughts about seeing her work adapted. So it was really cool to get her perspective on that. And of course, we have a bonus episode, which is our full interview with Celeste Ng.
That is amazing. And how does the book become a TV show or series? And how can TV boost book sales?
Well, I think it's very cool. It's, there are so many scouts out there that are looking for the next hot TV show. And of course, when you have a best-selling book, you have an already built-in audience that might come to your TV show if you adapt it. And so I think for best-selling books, like we've seen Wild be turned into a movie, we've seen Where'd You Go, Bernadette, we've seen Crazy Rich Asians. This is now a formula where it's sort of a safe bet to take something that's already sold well in book form and to bring it to life with actors and a great cast. Mm-hmm. So I think there's a whole team of people whose job it is to scout for these books that might make great TV shows, and lots of producers that are interested in investing. So I love seeing books be brought to the screen, which I think is really fun.
It sounds like it too. And what makes for a good book become a screen adaptation? What do you guys look for?
Well, I am not in charge of making them, unfortunately, but I think I would, if I were a scout, I would look for really lots of drama, a beautiful setting. So in terms of Crazy Rich Asians, it's set in New York, but then it's set, all over Asia and Singapore. And I think the setting is really important, and just to have some really meaty characters that some actors could dig into, as well as a dramatically paced plot. There's got to be something that keeps you tuning in episode to episode, or there's got to be a reason why you are invested in what's going on. So I think action, great characters, and great setting make a book able to be adapted to the screen.
And what did Celeste think of the series, and how much was she involved?
Well, it was very cool. She was not in the writer's room, but she has said to me in our interview that a great adaptation is like a cover song of your favorite, musical hit, that you expect the adaptation to use the same lyrics and the same melody like a cover song would. But ultimately, a cover song is a whole new piece of art. And so she really approached having her work adapted in that way, in that she appreciated what they did, the new thing that came out of the adaptation. So she wasn't looking for it to be kept perfect to her original. She was looking for it to be a great cover song, and I think that's what happened.
It sounds like it too, and a really nice job of it. And what readers would love about the series, and what would they want to improve on? It's like, what the readers say about it, what was good, what needs work on it.
Well, I think the stickler will say that there is a lot that is different in the show versus the book. There is a lot that was added to the show that is not in the original book. And so I think a stickler might say, but, they didn't do it justice because they added all this extra stuff. But I happen to think that the extra stuff actually adds a lot to the experience of watching the show. And so, they added one main character is, grappling with her own sexuality. We have the addition of Kerry Washington, and her daughter, played by Lexi Underwood, are Black in the show, and their race is not explicitly stated in the book at all. And so that adds a whole layer of unbelievably cool racial tension that we get to unpack in this show, which I think is adds a whole new element to viewing it.
Mm-hmm.
Then I think the actual whodunit, the mystery in the show is completely different than in the book. But I really like what they did, and I think it made sense. There's a whole backstory element that we get in the show that we don't necessarily get in the book. But of course, in the book, a character can have a flashback to a different time, and then a few sentences later, we're back in present day. And in a show, you can't really be flashing forwards and backwards. So we do get some really wonderful flashback episodes that I appreciated a lot. So I think a stickler might say there's a lot that's changed, but I think it's actually beneficial to the experience of watching the show.
It sounds like it too, and it was so successful. It also spawned off some normal people. We'll talk more about that. But first, listen to the Mike Widener Show at the MikeWidenerShow.com, powered by Sonic Web Studios. Visit online at SonicWebStudios.com for all your needs. Look at a professional website without breaking your budget. Sonic Web Studios is the answer. Sonic Web Studios offers fast, affordable custom web designs that blow the competition away. Call today at 1-800-303-3960. That's 1-800-303-3960. Or email to support@sonicwebstudios.com. Mention the Mike Widener Show, get 10% off your first order. Sonic Web Studios, take your image to the next level. Also, the Mike Widener Show can be heard on the MikeWidenerShow.com. You can check our Facebook page at Facebook.com/the Mike Widener Show. You can download and listen to over 35 podcast platforms, including Facebook, SoundCloud, Spreaker, also Spotify, iHeartRadio, iTunes, Google Play, and more. Take the Mike Widener Show on any mobile device. Subscribe to the Mike Widener Show on the YouTube channel. Also follow the Mike Widener Show on Instagram and Twitter today. We're here with Read It Forward Senior Editor Abbe Wright of the Adaptable podcast here on the Mike Widener Show. We talked about Little Fires Everywhere. We talked about some of her books and everything. And this series was so successful in the first season. You guys also looked at Normal People as well too. And tell us more about that in season 2.
Yeah, so we spent season 2 looking at the adaptation on Hulu and the BBC of Sally Rooney's Normal People. And that is a beautiful, moving love story that takes place between two people from different sides of the tracks. We've got Marianne, who's a rich young woman, and Connell, who is more popular but definitely poor. And they go to the same high school, and they end up having sort of an illicit romance in high school, and then they end up at the same university where they are, of course, on again and off again. So it is a very interior show that really examines these two and how they come to love one another and fall in love and out of love. It's absolutely unbelievably gorgeously shot, and it's quite sexy.
It sounds like it. And of course, you talked about with one being rich, one being poor, and from different sides of the town, having a romance in high school, and then fast forward over to university. Do you think these kind of relationships are common? Have they become common, or are they considered rare?
Well, I think, certainly in the case of these two characters, they connect on so many different levels other than their upbringings and their backgrounds. They're both incredibly smart and well-read. And I think, I think you can connect across different class levels if you have enough in common. And for these two, they have a lot in common, and they also have this undeniable chemistry. So I think you can absolutely, those types of couples are definitely possible.
And it sounds like it too. And what can we expect from Normal People in the future on your podcasts?
Well, we are, the episode arc is a 12 episode long show, and so we're covering each episode one by one. And then season 3, we will examine Jane Austen's Emma from a bunch of different standpoints. We'll look at the BBC miniseries. We will look at the Gwyneth Paltrow movie. We will look at a Bollywood adaptation. And of course, we will look at Clueless. So that will be one book with about 4 or 5 different adaptations, including the brand new Emma that was just in theaters.
And what projects are you looking at in the future, like down the road, like with future authors, future books, and everything else, like season 4, 5, 6, and what do you see down the road? Like, who would you like to have on, what books and everything else?
Well, the sky's the limit, and really we are at the mercy of the television and movie release schedule. But I'm definitely excited about The Good Lord Bird, which is coming out on, I believe, Showtime, which is all about abolitionist John Brown leading this group of freedom fighters. And so that, of course, is based on a book by James McBride, who is one of my very favorite authors. So I think that would be really exciting. I also have a fantasy about doing The Handmaid's Tale. Of course, our beloved Margaret Atwood just released last year The Testaments, which is a follow-up, a hotly anticipated follow-up to The Handmaid's Tale. And so I am hoping that The Handmaid's Tale on Hulu eventually will, I think their new season is not based on source material from the book. The writers have created something new in their own heads. But I hope that in the future they look at the Testaments and use that in a whole season. And so we, of course, would love to examine that on the Adaptables and talk to Margaret Atwood, which would just be a dream come true. And I think I would fall down on the floor.
It sounds like you're about to fall on the floor already, too, with so much anticipation of what's coming up in the Adaptables. I mean, this is really caught like wildfire, especially during the coronavirus. This is almost like a perfect timing. And how our authors and readers are reacting to the coronavirus.
Yes. I mean, I think it is an incredibly hard time to put out a book into the universe with such, news out there. I think authors are finding it hard to, it breaks my heart. You work so hard on creating your art and then you put it out into the world. And it's a very crowded space right now. But I think the publishing community and readers are, of course, coming together to support independent bookstores and to support authors and to keep buying their books. I know a lot of book events where an author would usually speak at a bookstore have moved to Zoom, and people are showing up and attending and supporting great work. I have a dear friend called Alana Masad, and her book is All My Mother's Lovers, which is coming out in the end of May. And so just to give that a plug. So I think the publishing community and readers are coming together to support one another. But I know authors sometimes feel like they might be shouting into the void during this time. But the good news is that people are looking for books to read right now. So I think there is such a beautiful silver lining happening where, we are craving books to distract us and books to help us escape from this current environment. And so, what is better than curling up with an amazing, amazing book, which can do that. So I am very hopeful that books will carry us through this pandemic. But definitely if you are a reader, buy their book from an independent bookstore that's making socially distant deliveries or will ship it to you. I think there's no better way to support an author or a book than just by buying it from an independent bookstore.
And what are some of the other publishing trends out there right now? And what are some of the publishing trends that you see in the future?
Well, of course, I think in this time of the global pandemic, you can't get to your library and often your local bookstore is closed. And so I've seen a huge uptick in buying ebooks. Of course, if you have a Kindle or an e-reader, you have access to all sorts of books right at your fingertips. And another great one for that is an audiobook, which I think is easy to download from your home, and you can really dive into a bunch of different books while you're, cooking or cleaning or home. You're supposed to be homeschooling your kids. You can have an audiobook playing in the background. So for me, there's nothing better than that. And I just think, I think in terms of future trends, I think books and literature as a means to tell a story and connect through storytelling, I don't think that's going anywhere. So I think depending on how we can gather in groups in the future, that might look different. But I don't think we will ever stop telling stories and connecting through the power of words and storytelling. So for me, I just feel very hopeful that, the future of books and art in that way is strong. And I can't wait to see what art comes out of this pandemic.
Mm-hmm. It sounds like it too. And we have a couple more minutes with Abbe Wright of the Adaptable podcast on the Mike Wagner Show. Just a couple more things. Who do you consider biggest influence in your career?
Oh my gosh. For me, it was a former boss named Sarah Nelson. She was the books editor at the Oprah magazine, and I worked under her. She taught me how to write a great book review. She went on to be the editorial director at Amazon, and she's now an editor at HarperCollins. And she taught me to really trust my taste. When I thought a book was good, she would say, well, tell me why. And I would. And for me, she was so important in learning how to believe in myself and my taste as a reader and as an editor and as a tastemaker, helping other people find great books to read. So I value her so much, and I was so honored to get to work with her and under her, that, I adore her.
That's amazing. What's the best advice you can give to anybody at this point?
I think, you have to hustle in order to make it, to get your words out there, to get yourself out there. And I think it's a crowded space, whether you're trying to write or whether you're trying to work in publishing. But I think if you can believe in yourself and what you have to offer, believe in your voice, and then just work hard and show up every day and do your research is another one. I think in the age of the internet, there's so much available out there that, you really can prepare pretty well for any interview or any meeting with an agent. So I think, hustle, work hard, and do your research. And that's my advice.
And that's the best plan out there. Once again, Abbe Wright of the Adaptable podcast, also Rita Forrest, senior editor of the Mike Wagner Show. Abbe, a big thank you for your time. You've been fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon. Once again, tell us about your upcoming projects. What's your website? How do people contact you? And where can people check out the Adaptable podcasts?
Well, check out the Adaptables podcast anywhere you listen to podcasts. We're on iTunes, iHeartRadio, Spotify, you name it. Rate and review us over there. Also, check out Read It Forward at readitforward.com. We're on Twitter at Read It Forward and Instagram at Read It Forward. And then, of course, give me a follow. I'm on Twitter at Abbe Wright, and that's ABBEWRIGHT. And I'm on Instagram at Abbe Wright1.
That's fantastic. Abbe, a big thank you for your time. You've been fantastic. Looking forward to having you again soon. Do us a favor, keep this up to date. And we'd love to have you back on again 2020 and beyond. And just be adaptable. So we'll adapt to you, and we'll be adaptable on the podcast. Look forward to having you again soon under adaptable conditions, which will make it happen.
Thank you so much, Mike. You've been so fun to get to talk to.